Hey everybody, good evening and welcome to another episode of the Now That You Mention It podcast with Roll, J, and RJ.
I'm Roll.
I'm Jay.
And I'm RJ.
Hey boys, how y'all doing tonight?
Good,
doing
how are
well,
you?
bud? Fantastic.
Could be doing a lot better, but hey guys, first of all, I just want to say thank you to our listeners, thank you to our viewers. We are on episode 21, which means we've been doing this for 5 months now. We never really thought it would get this far. We thought we might have some fun with it, but it's kind of grown into something and we enjoy doing. We enjoy bringing to you guys. You can catch all of our episodes on YouTube by hitting the like and subscribe button down at the bottom, clicking the little bell to get those notifications when our new content comes out. You can hear our audio only episodes through Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and iHeartRadio. And you can catch all of our social media through Facebook, our Instagram page, and our Reddit page, which RJ had posted on our social media today that we have garnered enough support on our Reddit page to get our own subreddit.
Yeah, and so
Nice.
just to speak on that a little bit, for anybody of our followers, listeners, whatever platform you're checking us out on, feel free to check us out on Reddit if you're on there, and just use it as a platform to engage with us. If you want to, talk about movie debate outside of what we're doing, if you want to talk about why the Cowboys can win the Super Bowl this year, if you want to talk about why the Mavericks were rigged out of the NBA playoffs, anything you want to talk about, don't feel it has to be
shafted,
about.
Man.
We'll talk about that after we finish, maybe later at the end of this episode. But yeah, they were. But yeah, just a forum for really anything that any of our followers want to talk about. We're here to let you guys engage with us.
Anything that has to
Awesome.
do with the universe of Now That You Mention It podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, guys, we're moving on with our last battle of the first round of the Now That You Mention It podcast movie review tournament. But before we move on to this week's battle, let's talk about last week's winner. RJ, what was the numbers in the polling there?
Well, it wasn't pretty. They got beat down pretty bad. Or the Fish that say Pittsburgh got beat down pretty bad by Smoking and Bandit 9-1.
Yeah.
I'm
and
doing this
on
under
the
protest. Under protest.
All results are final. I'm sorry.
yeah. So on our I placed a poll on the cinema chat group there in Facebook as well, and it was just as bad, man. It was pretty much a 12-1 beat down on Facebook as well in favor of Smoking the Bandit. So
Kind of looked like yeah, I was going to say I forget which game it was, but there was a baseball game last night where the score was 23-3, so not too far off of that.
It looked like that Game 5 blowout between the Mavs and the Clippers.
Damn. Whoa.
Damn.
Man,
Sorry, bro.
in any case, I'm depressed. I put a couple of grand in Vegas on this, and I was I took Fish that say Pittsburgh in the points, and needless to say, I think I'm going to have to go get a part-time job to kind of make up that lost income.
Hey,
Mike
I
Francesa
hear-
must have been the only bookie to take that.
yeah. Well, hey, I hear Uncle Matt's looking for some help.
Damn. I think I even had to pawn my college ring. As you can see, it's
That's
no
how he
longer-
laid the bet, man. He pulled the old Howard.
I saw that
Howard.
stupid. Yeah, I saw the stupid. What do you call uncut gems? And I got the bright idea of taking my.
See,
my
I knew he secretly liked the movie.
No, hell no, hell no.
That's why
Hey,
he voted
just-
for it, though.
Just get ready for another round of it. So,
Yeah.
well, hey
let's
guys,
bring
it's
in-
not
yeah.
needless to say, Smoking the Bandit's moving on in the next round of the
Yeah.
tournament. And let's move on to the final battle of our first round. And for that, guys, we wanted to bring in a special guest by the name of Miss Stephanie Fuller. Stephanie, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Hello again, Stephanie. I feel like I know you.
Hello. Yes. Let me tell you
Welcome,
something.
Stephanie.
Aggies don't pawn their college rings.
Oh, damn.
Give it to him.
Damn.
Give it to him. That was great. So we
Damn.
met Stephanie through the cinema chat group in Facebook through Vaughn's group there. She is a movie lover just like us. It's one of the reasons why we wanted to bring her on the show. We also wanted to get a female perspective for this week's matchup, being that it's an epic war movie versus an epic love story. So, I was, talking to Stephanie yesterday a little bit, and one of the things that I told my brother about. One of the things that surprised me about her was her choice in movies, and what her number one movie was. We kind of discussed our top fives. So Stephanie, why don't you tell these guys what your favorite movie is?
Stephanie, I want to guess before you actually tell it. Aliens. Is it Aliens?
How did you know? Yes.
Oh my God, you're horrible, dude. You're the worst.
Way to take away the spotlight from Stephanie.
I know, dude. Way to upstage our guest.
I'm gonna give Stephanie back the spotlight, but for all our viewers, just so you know, the four of us know what's going on behind the scenes, and it's all due to this. Oh, hold on, this guy over here. We'll talk about that later. Okay.
He forgot to hit record. All right, guys.
So tell us a little bit about why Aliens is your favorite movie, just out of curiosity.
Because it has a strong female lead, and she's a believable strong female lead. And if you can put yourself in that situation, she's the one that gives you the sense of her character is the one that gives you the sense of calm and the hope that you can survive. And the
fearlessness.
Michael Biehn character, yes, and how he protected her. There's a love story there. Yeah. There's a love story in Aliens. It's very strong.
Yeah.
Well, I her and I talked a little bit yesterday, and I mentioned this on the show last week, is that there are certain characters that you couldn't see other actors playing that role. I talked about Buford T. Justice last week. I don't think I could ever see anybody but Jackie Gleason playing the role of Buford T. Justice. I had mentioned to Stephanie yesterday when we were talking that I don't think I could ever see anybody but Sigourney Weaver playing that part. Because she did it so damn well. She was so good at it.
Sigourney Weaver's a great actress, period. I mean,
she is, man. She's fantastic.
I love a lot of things she's in. So Stephanie, aside from Aliens, what other kind of sci-fi movies get you going?
I like the first Terminator. I like Predator.
Okay.
I most sci-fis. That's my favorite genre. I like the subgenre of zombie apocalypse. Those films.
Nice.
I'm gonna put this out there. I think that the zombie apocalypse, if it ever happened, I would be fantastic at leading the humans that survived.
How do you figure? You don't even like blood and the crunching of bones. You mean to tell me you're going to survive a zombie apocalypse?
I'm going to tell you why, RJ. Because ain't no damn zombie going to want to eat him. There we are. Next.
I've already told my family if there's my plan for the zombie apocalypse is to be a zombie.
Well, hey.
Wow.
I don't want to live without electricity and having to
fair enough.
Forage for my food. I'll just be a zombie. They need zombies.
Yeah.
Hey, they're always recruiting.
Right.
And you won't have to worry about health insurance.
Right.
Hey, amen to that. All right. Well, moving on, guys. Our battle this week, of course, is an epic war movie. The 1960 drama Spartacus, starring Kirk Douglas, the great Kirk Douglas. Versus an epic love story. The great Kirk Douglas. Versus an epic love story. The Notebook, starring Ryan Gosling and what was the female actor's name? Rachel McAdams.
Yeah, Rachel McAdams.
You know what? I actually like her. She's a good actress. But we're going to go ahead and start with Spartacus. So, Roland, why don't you introduce us to Spartacus?
All right, so Spartacus is it is a classic movie. The original version came out in 1960. As Jay mentioned, it starred the great Kirk Douglas as Spartacus. It also had other actors of note: Tony Curtis, Laurence Olivier, Peter Ustinov, and Gene Simmons plays the female lead. The movie was directed by Stanley Kubrick, and it is basically retells the story of a Thracian slave who leads a revolt of gladiators and tries to break free of the bonds of slavery against the Roman Empire, and winds up building this massive army of slaves whom they free from other Roman communities through as they make their way through Rome, trying to get really to freedom. But unfortunately, they are no match for the much heavily armed and trained Roman army, which leads to the epic war scene, and unfortunately ends with Spartacus dying. But there are several great scenes in this movie, and so it does have more than just the element of war. There is a love story in there, and there's also the classic story of kind of the underdog taking on the far superior opponent. Unfortunately, the underdog doesn't win in the end, but still a great movie. One thing of note: this movie runs for 3 hours and 17 minutes. When we get into when we get into the logistics of the movie, I think there's some things I want to put in context. So, with that said, that's kind of the backdrop. Stephanie, as a courtesy to you, we're going to let you be our first review on this. So, what'd you think?
Don't be afraid to be brutal, Stephanie.
That's right.
I loved it. And right. I was amazed that a 1960 film could stand up to today's standards. And I didn't realize that it was a Stanley Kubrick film. I have mixed feelings.
Yeah, I think that kind of surprised me too.
Kubrick films. So most of the time when you're watching a movie, at least when I'm paying more attention to the story, because bottom line, that's what movies are about. It's about the story. And if the directing doesn't distract you from the story, or if you're involved with the story, you're not going to always notice the directing. Except that in this film, the directing was magnificent, and this was before CGI. So they had all these extras, just, so many people on the field marching, and it was really exciting to watch the scenes where there was smoke in the camps. The actors are breathing in that smoke. It's at night, and they're not doing retake after retake. So in today's, when you're making a film, you get as many infinite chances to shoot the scene as possible. Whereas in this film, they probably only had one or two opportunities because the actors are going to pass out from smoke inhalation. And
yeah.
So,
it's great.
And some of the scenes, Stephanie, going back to it, just to expand on your point, in that era, there was no such thing as PETA fighting for the animal rights that show up in these movies. So a lot of the war scene where you see the horses falling down, and you kind of wonder how many of them were actually injured, because those were really happening. I'm sure some of those horses were trained to take the fall, but there were just, you're right. There's no CGI. This is all live action. Those guys are out there swinging those swords, and it's go get them, right?
Yeah. And, I like Stephanie, I was surprised that this was a Stanley Kubrick film as well. I had no idea. I know that, I went back and did some research on it, as we've done with past movies. And this project was originally taken on by a different director, and that director and Kirk Douglas, got into an argument about the artistic direction of the film, and so Kirk Douglas had him fired and had Stanley Kubrick brought in. And I know that Stanley Kubrick detested this film in his last years, because this was the only film that he ever did that he didn't have full control over the story the direction. He didn't have control over the cinematography. The music. He didn't have complete control of the movie the way he did in all of his other movies. So at the end of his life, he actually hated this movie. He hated the fact that he had to direct this movie. And the screenwriter, was at the time blackballed in Hollywood because he was a communist. He was a known communist. And so this movie kind of was controversial in the fact that that screenwriter who had been blackballed and had been writing movies under an assumed name for Hollywood. This is I think his last name is Trumbo. This is the first movie in years that he had written under his own name, and he got credit for it through the Academy for it. And so, it was very controversial because of the fact that he was a communist and being blackballed in Hollywood, and Kirk Douglas kind of brought him into the fold. And I know Kirk Douglas took a lot of credit for that. But later on, the Trumbo's family kind of came through and said, he was going to get credit anyway. And I think Kirk Douglas took the credit after he knew he was going to get the credit. So, but yeah, man, this movie, for all the fight scenes, and in parts of it, it does look like a movie made in 1960s. I know the first gladiator scene between Kirk Douglas and the guy from Ethiopia or Africa, where they're fighting for the general of Rome and his girlfriend or his wife, and that
was Woody Strode, and he won a Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But that fight scene, throwing the net over him and hacking it, and you can see the progression of stunts in a movie between then and now. And I know that a lot of it is CGI and things like that, but you can see how better trained those stunt people and actors are now versus where they were 60 years ago.
Yeah. And that reminds me of something I wanted to mention was about the directing, was the scene right before that with Kirk Douglas and I think his name was Woody Strode in the box waiting to go fight.
Yeah.
And they were going back and forth between their faces. I thought that is incredible. And you could peek through and see the fight of the first two gladiators. I thought, that's where I noticed the directing. I thought this is a great choice to build tension, and I loved it. I loved that.
Yeah. So RJ, let's get your take.
I knew you were going to pick on me. Well, I mean, it had its moments. Obviously, I grew up in the time where CGI is kind of everything. But, even talking about that scene that you just mentioned, I don't think it was that bad, I mean, I think the only real difference is that they just didn't have the technology. But I thought the fight scene was very believable. Now, when you talk about the scenes where they pan out and, it's about them traveling, and you can clearly tell that's a painted background. I mean, of course, in moments like that, but from the fight scene perspective, I didn't think it was, that bad. I think Kirk Douglas did a great job. I went back and looked. This movie has some pretty good star power. I enjoy Greek and, Roman mythology. I really enjoy a lot of categories. I enjoy the, zombie apocalypse just the same way Stephanie does. But I don't know, this movie just kind of, for me, made me feel like I was in history class again a little bit. Obviously, it's a little outdated. I was talking with my dad about it in the car. Maybe I might like it more if I went and watched a newer one. But I do have some points. Like, for example, I can't remember the main commander's name at the gladiator school. No, not Gracchus. Gracchus was
Titus.
Yeah, him. I thought it was kind of, dumb that he started, his beef with Spartacus just because Spartacus didn't look at him a certain way. I don't know. That just seemed a little bit of reach for me.
When you're a slave, though, you kind of have that expectation of, hey, I'm better than you. I own you. I paid for you. You're going to do what I tell you to do, and you're going to look at me a certain way. I'm your master. Unfortunately, you know, at a time where people were just persecuted the way they were. And, you know, the thing that I didn't know going into this was that this is based on an actual person. This is based on a true story. I had no idea. You know, I listened
Loosely
to history class.
based, but yes.
Loosely based, but yeah, but it's based on, I mean, Spartacus, you know.
Right. The Romans kept good records, though. They kept good records,
absolutely.
and they know that there were 200 gladiators at that school, and that 70 of them escaped, and that the Batitus character, he was the one that was the
trainer.
He was not the trainer. He was
the owner.
Yes,
he ran the school.
This is what my son watched this, and he's a history buff. My son is, and any movie that's based on a true story that has any deviation from history, he has an issue with it. And he watched this movie after I did, and then he went and did the research on the history of it and shared with me that the only thing that he really could find that was different from the history was that character was known to be very cruel. And in the end, seeing the female lead, Jean, goes Varinia, she goes off with him because he had a character transformation, but that didn't, you know, that was fabricated, fictionalized for the entertainment purposes. But as far as the facts go, it was very close. I mean, only not all the gladiators didn't escape, only 70 of the 200. But other than that, they were on the road for 2 years and did free other slaves and were ultimately crushed. It took 3 armies to crush them. And they did have a deal. They paid in full for their passage with the pirates, and the pirates
I thought, man,
betrayed
that
them.
was sorry.
Don't pay in full.
Man. Yeah.
Never pay in full.
Well, and the thing is, you know, the thing is when you're playing with people who have more money than you, that kind of, you know, because the reason why they were betrayed by the pirates was because that one senator, I think what was his name?
Crassus.
Yeah, Crassus sold him out. He went to the pirates and said, "Hey, man, whatever they paid you,
he didn't sell them out. He strategically set them up. I mean, you know, the thing you got to understand is at the time, you're introduced to Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar is a young senator at this time. I mean, he has not ascended to the level of emperor that he later becomes. So, you know, Crassus is this powerful politician and with significant influence, obviously very, very knowledgeable in terms of the military. And, you know, it was a strategic play on his part. Because I think he was, from the political standpoint, he used this as a way to start to gain more and more influence and control in the Senate. And if you look, Crassus at the time was the most wealthy Roman at that time. So, you know, it was natural that the Senate turned to him. He's kind of stepped in, and, you know, lo and behold, Julius Caesar, who I don't want to say was opposed to him in the beginning, but certainly wasn't fully aligned with him at the beginning of the movie. But by the end,
he was aligned with the other senator. He was aligned with the older senator, Gracchus. That's the older senator's name. He was aligned with him, but in the end, he fell in line with Crassus there. But yeah, I mean, you know, the 3 hours. I had to break this thing up. You know, after. Man, I texted these guys after like 2 hours of this, and I go, "Damn, there's still another hour of this left."
You know, the funny thing though, and the thing I was explaining to RJ is, you know, again, let's look at this at that movie in the context of when it was made, right? So for us these days, number one, we have such short attention spans. No, seriously. So if a movie is longer than 2 hours, it better be like 2 hours and 1 minute. Because I mean, most movie viewers are just going to give you about that hour and 50 minutes to 2 hours and 15 minutes, and then they're out for the most part. Back then, going to the theater and watching a big production like this, man, that was like your whole Saturday night. So when this movie's made, obviously you have an interlude at the very beginning, which is, all those are done with live orchestras, right? Yeah. And then you have the intermission halfway through the movie to give you that break. So this was something where you went to the theater to watch this grand scale, and for you, 3 hours and 17 minutes away from whatever you were doing was a godsend. Because we
didn't have these back in the day.
That's right.
A lot of things.
Exactly right. And so that being said, it told a great story. I think that fundamentally, the love story they introduce in here. Now, that's one thing I was going to say, Stephanie, is I don't know that I saw that there was an actual love interest for Spartacus in real life, or much less whether he had a son. However, in the story, the context of this movie, they introduced that element, and you could honestly feel that the Spartacus character softened around Verinia because he loved her, right? He was captivated by her. And at the very end of the movie, as he's dying on the cross, to see that his son, knowing that his son is going to be free, knowing he's dying, and even before that, the scene where he has to kill Antoninus, Tony Curtis's, that was an awesome scene, right? Because
that was very good.
He said, "Look, I'm not going to let you suffer the long, cruel death that I'm going to suffer. I'm going to put you down quick." And after
but you know what? They both fought that. They were both saying the same thing to each other.
Well, but
Antoninus was telling him the same thing.
You could feel the love between the two characters. You could feel that, hey, I'm not going to let you take the severe punishment. And so that's why the fight scene was so real. And then the scene where he after he stabs Antoninus, he asks him for forgiveness, and then they tell each other they love each other like father and son. I mean, I almost teared up at that scene because I really felt, the emotion between those two characters, because, here's Antoninus, who really isn't a warrior. I mean, he's a poet, he's a singer, right?
Singer
and he evolved into this soldier, and he buys into the message. He buys into the whole movement that Spartacus is inspiring. Yeah. And the fact that at the very end, he's almost like Spartacus's right-hand man at the very end.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, how many films do you know that highlight a best friendship, and a war story, and a love story?
Exactly.
Yeah.
All in one.
Exactly.
And
still against the backdrop of the whole rising up from being, from oppression, right?
Because fighting the establishment.
Yeah, right. The message here is, again, I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. Powerful message. Powerful. Mm-hmm.
That reminded me of Braveheart.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I'm with you right there.
Well, after watching this movie, or as I was watching, the thing that stood out more than anything in this whole movie to me was the scene where Spartacus is no. Oh no, not that part. Drowning him in the pot of beans was not the worst part. The scene where he's telling the slaves that, look, we've been sold out by the pirates. The ships are not waiting for us. We have no choice but to go fight the Romans. And he gives this grand speech, and he gets everybody to buy in and to start marching towards Rome. If you look at the senators, because they do a cutaway to the senators talking as well, their hair is all messed up. You look at the army of the slaves, and their hairs are messed up. And man, Kirk Douglas had that perfect comb back. Dude, that hair was so awesome. That was so great. And the thing is, they're panning through all the slaves, and you just see everybody's hair is they look like they've been walking for 5 years. And then you see Kirk Douglas, dude, his hair is completely straight back. Looked like he just got sprayed with the Aquanet. I mean,
well, and another powerful scene in that movie is when they've obviously been defeated. They're all prisoners now, or the remaining survivors they're all prisoners. And Crassus is basically telling them, we'll consider letting you live You'll still be slaves.
Oh, yeah.
But you got to give us Spartacus, right?
Yeah.
And
That
you
was
can
one of my
see-
favorite
You
scenes,
can
man.
see Spartacus is getting ready to stand up and
Yeah.
out himself, and then they all start claiming to be
Yeah.
Spartacus, right?
The loyalty
how
is
powerful- yes.
inspiring.
Yeah, man.
They're
Yeah.
loyal,
That's crazy.
not just to him, but to
Right.
the movement. They're
That's right.
both.
Yeah.
He was
Exactly.
a charismatic leader, and what I liked in the film too, in addition to the love story, the history, the war story, the best friendship, but it showed pictures of everyday life. It took its time.
Yes.
As he walked through the people, you can see the kids milking the goats and
Right.
squirting
Yeah.
the kid with the milk
That was
and
funny.
talking to the old lady and how she and including her in the
Yes.
movement.
Yeah.
And it was very inclusive, I thought.
Oh yeah. No, it's great. Very, very good. All right. So I guess let's go ahead and score this one. Again, Stephanie, we'll give you the honors. Jay, I'm sure you shared with her the categories, right? That how we kind of
Yes.
scored this. So it's 5 categories: story/plot, star quality or star power, the quality of the acting, the emotion of the story, and then the final question is, would you watch this movie again? And a possible 5 out of each one of those categories would give you a complete perfect score of 25. So Stephanie?
Okay, well, yeah, a perfect score, 100% would be 25, and A is 22.5 or better.
Right.
So I gave it a 23 total, and that's 4 for acting. I thought Kirk Douglas was a little bit stiff sometimes. Like I wanted to see more emotion in his face. Star power was a 5 because they had all big names. Something to note too, Tony Curtis was as popular and as well known as Kirk Douglas at the casting of this film, but he so badly wanted to be part of the film that he took a lesser role. His people advised against it. So anyway, I gave it a 5 on star power, strength of story 5. The emotional buy-in, I took it down to a 4 because it accomplished so many things, but it could have gone a little bit further, like in the love story, or even in the story between Spartacus and his right-hand man. I thought there was just like one scene missing to build up to their friendship. So
Sure.
Overall, would I watch it again? I already did. I watched it once by myself and watched it again with my husband, had my kids watch it. I don't usually watch movies twice, but I've already watched this one twice, and my overall score is a 23. So that's an A.
All right.
Awesome.
All right.
Roll. Let's do you next, Roll.
All right. So for me, story plot, I gave it a 4.5. I really like the story. There are so many elements in there, everything intertwined. Like Stephanie mentioned earlier, you got the love story, you got the war story, you got the fighting of oppression, you've got the love in between comrades, right? Self-sacrifice. I mean, there's so many things to really love about the story. So I gave it a 4.5. As far as star power, I gave it a 4 because again, you look at the context of this movie, just like Stephanie mentioned. I mean, Tony Curtis was a well-known name. Laurence Olivier was one of the biggest stars in Hollywood at the time. Kirk Douglas, of course. I'm a big fan of Peter Ustinov. People don't know, but Peter Ustinov is actually in the days of Batman on the Batman series. He played King Tut.
Yeah, King Tut. He sure did.
And then, of course, Gene Simmons. And then quality of acting, I debated, but I gave it a 4 because I think there were several good performances in here. I do agree that Kirk Douglas's character probably could have been a little bit better, but I mean, hell, he's the star of the movie, so I mean, I guess you cut him a little slack. Emotion, again, a 4. I could feel the emotion, not only from the pride of Spartacus and saying, I'm not going to be a slave anymore, to the love and the infatuation he had with Verinia, the what do you call the loyalty that all these guys were willing to die, not only for Spartacus, but for the cause. And of course, then the pride of the Romans, right? You got a sense of that pride, and Julius Caesar, all of it. So very good. I gave it a 4. And then would I watch it again? I gave that a 4. So, I mean, you've got a 20.5 as my score.
All right, RJ.
All right. Well, plot, I gave it a 3.5. I think it had a good message. And then star power, I gave it a 4. I went back and looked before, earlier this morning and saw, a bunch of the other works that a bunch of these actors were in. Quality of acting, 3. And then emotional buy-in, 3.5. It definitely had its moments where I was like, kind of on the edge of my seat. Watch again, I gave it a 1 because I don't know, this movie just for me is just a little too long, and I think part of that is also
and not enough special effects.
Man, yeah, I mean that's probably true. I'm not going to deny that, but
Okay.
so total score of 15.
15.
Ouch.
All right.
Jay?
Well, we see where the historical drama falls with RJ. For me,
And an
I
Oscar
give-
winner. That
yeah.
you, know,
Well,
you
and that-
mentioned Peter Ustinov. He won an Oscar for that role in
yeah,
Spartacus.
absolutely.
Oh,
So I gave the plot storyline a 4. Like I said, watching it and then having gone back and realized that this was actually based on a real person kind of amped that up for me. The plot of the story. Now, of course, they took some artistical, what do they call it? Artistical license with it, adding in a love story that we don't know that happened. We don't know. I did read through some of the history of it, and there was no proof that the rebelling slaves, were actually moving to free other slaves. They were just moving just to move, right? Because they didn't want to be slaves anymore. Star power, like you guys, I gave that a 5. I mean, just the Oscar winner in Peter Ustinov. Kirk Douglas, Laurence Olivier, Gene Simmons. I mean, you can Tony Curtis. You can just go on and on with the stars that are in this movie. And just like we talked about when we did Casablanca, a lot of these guys were under contract, so they were going to be in this movie regardless. But a lot of them were all stars in their own right. Just like Casablanca was packed with stars, this movie was packed with stars as well. I gave the sorry, I closed my little page out here. I gave the quality of the acting. I gave that a 4. It did have strong moments. The I Am Spartacus scene, the scene where him and Tony Curtis have to fight out. The scene. There was just so much strong acting, but like RJ said, and like Stephanie said, there were some flat points in here. And there were times where some of the acting could have carried it a little farther, but they didn't. But I gave it a 4. The emotional buy-in, you could feel the emotion in certain parts of this movie. The love story, the love that Spartacus had for Gene Simmons' character, the love that he had for Tony Curtis, the trust and the overwhelming feeling of we're going to follow this guy to the end that he had over the slaves. But not only that, like you said, Roll, the Romans, how they all banded together and had that sense of pride because they were Romans. You could just, this thing exude emotion. So I gave that a 4. And would I watch it again? Yeah, I would. I think the only thing that's stopping me from giving this a 5 would I watch it again is the fact that it is 3 hours long. And like RJ, my attention, I like I said, I had to break it up into 2 parts because when it got to that 2-hour mark, I was literally texting these guys going, damn it, I still have another hour of this to go. I got things to do, man. I can't sit here for, another straight hour watching this. But so my overall score was a 21.
Oh, wow. That's good.
So
Good.
that's I think this is one of our best choices from our fan voting. They really voted in some really good movies. I I'd never seen Spartacus before we did this tournament. I probably never would have gone to see Spartacus on my own just because of the fact that it was 3 hours. When I looked at that runtime, I know RJ and I discussed it. We were texting each other. He's like, "Are we watching the old version?" He's like, "It's 3 hours long." I'm like, "I know, man, but yeah, that's the version we're watching." So it was I'm glad that we got pushed into watching it because I never would have watched it on my own. But now that I've seen it, I would go back and watch it again, definitely.
Well, another one that's similar that I haven't seen in a while, but has inspired me Spartacus inspired me to go back and watch it was Ben-Hur. It came out a year before, and it's been a number of years since I've seen it. So I kind of want to watch it and do the compare and contrast between Spartacus and Ben-Hur with Charleston Heston.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any movie he's in is fantastic.
Right.
There's another one I think it's called The Robe that he's in. I'll go back and check. That one's a great movie too. And of course, 10 Commandments. Who doesn't love 10 Commandments? I could, 10 Commandments is one of those movies I could watch every year. I mean, we would always watch it obviously around Easter. But I mean, it's definitely one of those movies that if it's on, I'm watching it.
Yeah.
And that one came out in 1956.
Yeah.
Wow.
The 10 Commandments.
And one of those movies for me is The Sound of Music. One of those movies that's, 3.5 hours long that does have that interlude in the middle that you guys, mentioned. That's a movie that I could watch every year. And I do. I've seen it multiple occasions. I don't just watch it at Christmas. There's been times when I was bored and I'll just put on because I like the songs. I'm a big fan of musicals. And
I think the other thing too is sometimes we gloss over is that on some of those stories, the quality of the actors was really phenomenal. And that's not to disparage the modern actors, but I think sometimes you can be a slightly weaker in terms of your acting skill because you might have an action movie or CGI or special effects or something else that really enhances the movie for you. Back then, a lot of that was, it had to be from the actor. You had to feel the actor. You had to get the buy-in from the actor. So I do think there's a lot to be said about that era of movie. So, all right.
So moving on to our second contestant.
Second contestant.
I was dreading going and watching, just because I'd heard so many things about it. But The Notebook, which is, similar to Spartacus, where you have a movie where one of the basis is class difference in class between the people who own the slaves and the slaves themselves. The Notebook is a movie about the difference in class in the term of a love story. You have a poor younger man who falls in love with the daughter of a rich family. He's a passionate young man. He falls in love with her, giving the young lady a sense of freedom from, being tied into that rich family there. But they get separated because of their social differences, because of expectations on her from her family. The movie revolves around, two older people starting in the beginning of the movie in a nursing home. Duke, played by the great James Garner, one of my favorite actors, reading a romance story to an older woman who's obviously senile, obviously has dementia or Alzheimer's, memory loss. The story revolves around a couple in the 1930s, a wealthy 17-year-old, Allie Hamilton, spending a summer vacation in Seabrook, North Carolina, where she meets a local woodworker named Noah. They fall for each other after some cajoling from a couple of their friends, and they fall deeply in love. They spend the summer together, and because of their class difference, Allie is forced to leave to go to New York with her family, where she awaits word from Noah from North Carolina, thinking that he's not in love with her anymore. But Noah has been writing to her every day for a year. He writes her 365 letters, but the letters are hidden by her mother, so she never reads them. She thinks that Noah doesn't care about her anymore, and starts to move on with her life. World War II breaks out. Both Noah and his best friend go to fight in World War II, where his best friend is killed. And Allie becomes a nurse, or a nurse's aide, at least, where she meets James Marsden's character. She falls for him. He winds up proposing to her. He comes from an affluent family, which is more socially acceptable to her family. And they get engaged. And, Noah, just coming back from the war, his father sold his house so that Noah could have the money to buy another house that he dreamt of fixing up. And he dreamt of fixing the house up for Allie. And so he goes about, over time fixing the house up and kind of builds it to the expectation that Allie had told him she would like to see the house. Painted white with blue shutters, with an art room for her. And even though he finishes the house and he has many people wanting to buy the house, decides not to sell it because he always has a reason not to sell it, thinking, that one day Allie's going to come back to him. The house happens to be featured in, I believe it was either a magazine or a newspaper article where Allie sees the picture and can't believe what she sees. She goes back to North Carolina to meets back with Noah. They fall back in love. And the story just kind of goes from there. She winds up breaking it off with James Marsden's character and spending the rest of her life with Noah. We find out at the end of the movie that, the two older characters in the nursing home at the beginning of the movie were Noah and Allie. So that's, just a kind of brief synopsis of the movie there. RJ, yeah. That's basically the movie in a nutshell. But RJ, let's go ahead and start with you, because you were the one who was like most looking forward to me having to watch this movie. So I'm going to make you suffer by going first with your analysis.
That's fine. I mean, overall, I like the movie. I'm sure that's going to be a shocker to you, but this is probably the third or fourth time. I don't know how many times I've seen this movie. It's a good movie. I think it's very sweet. I know you love Casablanca, and I don't see what the difference between this and Casablanca are. I mean, they're both love stories. That's what Casablanca is. So I find it hard to understand why you love Casablanca, but you dreaded watching this so much. The storyline at the end, her going back to Noah, I find that in real life, at least, a little hard to believe, but, very touching. Obviously, it's a movie, so it doesn't have to be real life. And on that same point, the mom probably never admits to hiding the letters, at least in real life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I find it a little unbelievable that, he's at war and has the time every single day to write her a letter, but it's very moving and very touching. Definitely. To kind of get into the beginning, it's very sweet how, you think he's these two old people who don't really know each other, and yet he's reading her this story. Obviously it becomes even, more romantic once you find out in the end that, who they are, and he's telling her their life story. And I kind of got the sense that he's doing this on a daily or weekly basis, which makes it, really shows his commitment to her on multiple. Yeah. And that happens multiple times through the movie. I mean, just look at the fact that even though he never heard back from her while he was at war, he still went and bought the house and still went and fixed it up. It kind of hard to find that commitment today, or at least in today's, how do I put it?
Society.
I guess, society. And not just that. I mean, to even take a point from Spartacus is that Gracchus, in that movie, he's like, I'm not going to take a vow of marriage, when I know I'm not going to keep it. Whereas in this movie, he's not even married to Allie, and yet, he's doing all these sacrifices for her. I think the ending is something that everyone kind of dreams of. Unfortunately, it's not reality, but I think if, everybody would love to die of old age next to their partner at the same time. That's just my opinion. I don't, I'll let you guys sound off on that.
My wife's going to go on old age with me, whether she wants to or not, buddy.
Well, I meant the dying part. I meant the dying part.
No, that's what I'm talking about, that part too. When I go, she goes. That's all there is to
Wow.
it.
Wow.
So right now we basically have a recorded confession of murder if he predeceases her, right? And then she just mysteriously dies. Okay, all right.
I don't know if I would have said that on camera, but anyway, it had its funny points too. You know, like when the dad does sell the house, and he's like, "Where are you gonna live, Dad?" And he's like, "Who do you think is gonna help you fix the house?" Like he knows, you know, he's not gonna be able to fix that house by himself.
Even though he winds up doing most of it by himself.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, anyways,
when he montage anyway.
Yeah, in the montage for Hollywood. But when he hangs from the Ferris wheel, you know, to kind of get her to agree to go out with him, and then she ends up pantsing him. You know, that was very funny.
Yeah, but that was a psycho move right there, dude. That was a first of all, let me say, and Stephanie, please pardon my French, but that was a real dick move on his part, because she's there with the guy, right? In the Ferris wheel, she's on a date, and the dude climbs the Ferris wheel to hang out in front of her and pull this stunt to get her to go out with him. Come on, dude, that's messed up. I'm sorry, it just is. He deserved that pantsing.
Are you
yeah,
gonna
and they
let?
didn't show how he got down from there.
Yeah,
That
that's
bothered
true.
me. How do you get down when your pants are around your legs and there's nothing to get?
So what were you gonna say, RJ? Am I gonna what?
I was gonna say, are you gonna let life write itself for you, or are you gonna go out and write your life? I mean, he took control of the situation.
Wow, look at this.
And wanted to make destiny happen for itself. So
wow,
I mean, a little bit of kudos,
a
little bit of kudos to him for that.
I like
that,
it.
Okay, hold on. Let me ask you this though. So you're on a date with your girl, right? And some dude wants to go out with her, and you guys are sitting down at dinner, and he just comes over and starts hitting on her in front of him. You're not going to say anything about that? You're not going to?
Of course I am.
That's not going to bug you?
I'm just saying, of course. I mean, my dad's going to be getting a call in the middle of the night to come bail me out. But that's not what happened. That's the other guy's fault. That's not my fault. Ryan Gosling's character took advantage of the situation, and it paid off for him.
Boy, you guys are getting into this a lot more than I thought. Man, there's a lot of subtext in this thing that I did not anticipate with you two. Okay, so Stephanie, let's kick it to you. What do you think?
Well, first, let me say that the definition of romance is that the main couple will get together in the end.
Right.
Romantic films always end up together. Otherwise, it could be a drama, and you never know, are they going to end up together or not?
Right.
With that being said, this was Nicholas Sparks' first published novel. He's published 21 novels, and 11 of them have been adapted to film. I've seen at least 10 of the 11. And this is the best offering out of those 11. And if you look at the Rotten Tomatoes, it got a whopping 53%. I didn't look at the IMDb ratings, which are a little bit better. But out of the 11 films, this was the highest rated film. But it was kind of like two films in one. Yeah, most of the others are in the 20s, some in the teens. They have not done well. They've done well at the box office. The Channing Tatum film was the most successful because of Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum.
But anyway, this to me was almost like two films. The film of the older couple and the film of the younger couple. Now, I like romance. I've watched 10 out of those 11. I understand that the male character and the female character, one's going to fall for the other, and for some reason, they can't get together. There's some kind of impediment, and it's the journey of how do they come together in the end. And so I enjoyed the younger film with Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams. And by the way, the first time I saw this film, I got the DVD and I got the extras. And I remember from all those years ago watching the extras. And one of the extras was the audition tape for Rachel McAdams with Ryan Gosling. And I have never seen a young man so smitten immediately with the girl. I mean, he had the biggest grin on his face after they finished their scene, and you could tell this guy likes her. And sure enough, they ended up dating in real life for like 2 years. Broke up, got back together, but ultimately it didn't work out for them in real life. But while they made this film, the tension, the sexual tension between them is palpable. It is jumping off the screen, and that's fun. That's exciting. I mean, Ryan Gosling, I know you don't really like him, but he's a sexy dude, and he's eye candy. I was like, I honestly rated him down on his acting, but I mean, on his charisma, his natural charisma, it's overwhelming. So they're actually falling in love during the making of this film, and you can feel it. Now, the James Garner, Gina Rowland film, I did not like. But unfortunately, you need it because it's the ending that makes the film memorable. Like when I look at these 10 Nicholas Sparks films that I've seen throughout the years, I'm like, what was that one about? What was that one about? I don't remember the details. This is the one you remember the details of because of the impact of the long-term relationship and how his love is so strong that he can pull her out.
So can I ask you a question real quick, Stephanie? What was it about the relationship with the older couple that you didn't like versus what you liked with the younger couple?
Okay, two things. One, I didn't like the casting. James Garner doesn't look a darn thing like Ryan Gosling. They didn't try to makeup. They don't have the same build. They don't have the same mannerisms. And the same is true for Gina Rowland. Gina Rowland was a vixen in her day, and she is a beautiful senior lady. But she's nothing like Ryan. I mean, she's nothing like Rachel Adams. And the movie tries to hide the fact that it's the older couple. And come on, we're not stupid. We know it's them.
Yeah. And even I figured that out halfway through the movie.
Well, they tell you halfway through the movie, but they try to.
It's pretty obvious,
because they say his children, not her children. That's annoying. Like what the staff of the dementia center is going to lie to her that those aren't her children. And here's the thing. Here's you wanted me for the lady perspective. Here it comes. Gina Rowland is stunning as a dementia patient. She has to have a hairdresser, a makeup artist. Her wardrobe was incredible. Even her jewelry was perfect. She's not getting herself dressed like that.
Right.
I mean, I know there's all different forms of dementia, but I've even heard of a dementia patient that even when you're older, getting your hands up to roll your hair and not burn yourself with curling iron or the hot rollers. It takes coordination. Their eyesight fails. How do you get those perfect lashes on? I mean, it was so beautiful. It was distracting. I was like, come on, this is not real life. And so I watched it like this. It's not real. But then I'm like, hurry up, get back to the sexy young couple. I was watching the sexy young couple like, oh, that is so hot. Oh yeah. Oh, to be young again. So there's the fantasy.
Got it.
All right, Jay. Well, you're up.
I have to be honest with you guys. I went into this with very, very low expectations. And I know that's something that Stephanie and I had talked about yesterday when we kind of set up for this, was that when you go into a movie with low expectations, a lot of times you can come out pleasantly surprised. And I'm here to tell you guys, I did not hate this movie. At the end of it, I didn't hate this movie. And I've said it before. I am a fan of love stories. I do. I just had heard so many bad things about this movie, about how sappy it was, and how, you see the memes on social media of, Ryan Gosling and her standing in the rain, yelling at each other. What do you want? That whole scene. And it's just, I had that expectation going in that, man, this was going to be a sap fest. This is going to be one of those movies where a girl sitting next to you is always going to have a tissue with her because she's going to cry through the whole thing. And it wasn't really that. It had an interesting story to me. I honestly, the story of how they met, of that dedication that he has to her, throughout his entire life, even when he's with another woman, that other woman, that he had no feelings for her. She was just, that was just a way for him to release his sexual frustration. He didn't want to go on the picnic with her. He didn't want to go to, be with her. He wanted Rachel McAdams' character. He wanted Allie. And this girl was just somebody there to be with him so he wouldn't be lonely. And then, for Allie to throw everything away, she had, the makings of a comfortable life by marrying somebody who was affluent, who came from an affluent family, who matched her class of, you hate to say it at that time, but her class of family, because again, this is a story about a division of class. It's a rich, younger daughter of a rich family with the young man of a working class, not so rich family. And so, that whole aspect of it, her leaving that comfortable lifestyle to go be with him. And you don't want to say suffer, but that they were going to go through hard times because he couldn't provide her with all the things that maybe she was used to. He was able to build that house for her, but could he give her all the things that she was used to growing up? And you wonder about those kind of things.
What's funny, bro, is to some degree, I think the fundamental theme that really makes this an awesome romance is that, to me, the underlying message is love conquers all, right? So, I mean, they were, like Stephanie said earlier, romances are very formulaic. Boy meets girl, boy gets girl, boy loses girl, boy overcomes and gets girl back. I mean, it's very formulaic. I mean, that's just the way good romances work. I mean, again,
but you get to see the possible way this could have ended up, because her mom takes her on that car ride to show her the young man that she was in love with, that was a working class guy, and that's how her life could have turned out versus how it actually did turn out.
Even then, in that scene, and that's a great scene, because I was going to bring that up, is the mom also? You could also get the sense that the mom has a bit of regret.
Yeah,
because she chose security and money over true love, right? And yes, it's amazing how sometimes you think that she was trying to paint the context of the importance of the choice to her daughter, right? But I think in the end, too, she felt the right thing to do was basically give her daughter the choice. Let her make the decision, right? Choose love or choose comfort. And so I think, again, the whole theme throughout the entire thing, because even in the scenes with the older couple, Duke and at the retirement.
Let me stop you right there, because that bothers me right there.
Oh, hold on.
Why did they call him Duke?
Well, I mean, who knows, bro? I think that kind of goes back to Stephanie's point. First of all, the casting for the older couple throws you off. I think they did do it intentionally, but it was terrible because I had the same problem. Buying James Garner as the old version of Noah, Ryan Gosling's character, that wasn't flying. But in the context of that relationship there, right? It clearly shows that even then, that character, Noah or Duke, was still in love with his wife. So much so that when the kids came to visit and they're begging him to come home, and he basically says, look, guys, you're my children. I love you. I will. But at this point, I'm not leaving her. She's my sweetheart. That is the woman that I built this entire life around. I'm not going anywhere.
The pair bond is paramount.
Exactly. And then again, the very ending, right? When she asked him about their love, could they get through this whole dementia thing, right? And he says, our love can do anything. So much so that they die together. And again, it's a storybook, and I mean, it's a novel ending. But again, for us that are really hardcore romantics in the end, I mean, what a powerful message, right?
Yep.
That basically you're saying once you find true love, everything else is almost irrelevant because you're gonna find a way through. So even when you talk about the economic disparities, right, the class differences, that goes by the wayside because love will conquer, right? You'll find a way. You build a life together. And yes, Noah had meager means, but man, him restoring that house was a labor of love. He did that for her. All that hard work, all the sacrifices, and yes, even retaining or not fully giving his love to another woman, right? It was the fact that he was so profoundly in love with Allie, and nothing was going to take that away from him. You know, and it was by sheer coincidence, right, that she sees the write up of him, the picture they take, and what's even funny though is when he at the moment when he looks desperate in that he doesn't that he's lost without her, right, and he contemplates selling the house, and all of a sudden all these people are making crazy offers to him, right?
Yeah.
One of my favorite scenes is the one where the guy says, you're going to pay me $50,000 for my house? And the guy says, yeah, that's more than your asking price. What a great deal, right? And he goes in and gets the shotgun, right? And he goes,
Yeah.
I'm not selling my house to anybody who's that crazy to overpay me.
To a lunatic.
He was never going to sell the house because
he never had an intention to sell the house. Man.
Was the symbol of Allie, right? So his heart, his soul was in that house. And then, of course, when she returns, you knew that they were going to instantly fall in love because she never fell out of love with him. Yeah. She only moved on because she thought that he moved on. But once she found the story, the newspaper article, she had no reason to go back other than to explore whether or not that love still existed. She had no reason. She was about
to find out why she was rejected. She rejected from him. And why did he reject her? She never learned that until she realized that he never really did reject her.
Yeah. So, you know, even though the casting of the older couple, I agree with Stephanie. It was probably a little bit just too unbelievable because you just can't believe that James Garner's character. But still, even the emotion of that stage of knowing that she, for the most part, can only remember him in those minute glimpses of the windows that she has clarity, right? But for the most part, she's pretty much forgotten. She's forgotten her own children, right? She doesn't even recognize. But when she's lucid, when the story comes back to her, when the love brings her back, even for those very short windows, it's amazing the recall she has, right? Where she even asks, how are the kids doing? Right. Yeah. And so, and when
it kind of made me wonder if that's really, does that really happen with dementia patients where they get,
I'm sure it does, bro. I mean, who knows? That's, to be honest with you guys, that's the one fear I have, right? Is of all the health issues that we could experience is dementia, because the reality is to kind of forget all the people that you love. I mean, I don't think you ever forget them in the context of within yourself, but in the context of not recognizing them and not, just not having, I mean, that's such a scary thought to me, but anyway, I digress. Let's get back to the movie.
Well, I gotta bring up one of Stephanie's other points. And this is something that my wife, mentioned while we were watching the movie, is that I gotta say, man, Ryan Gosling, way better with the beard than without.
Dude, but the one thing I mentioned, I told Kathy about in the movie, why does the guy never comb his hair? Throughout the entire movie, his hair is just, like just a mess.
Hey, dude, that's how you become a sex symbol, dude. That's how you become
part of the look.
There's not a single thing where he combs his hair. I'm like, at least comb it once. Okay,
man, that he's a woodworker. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, he's a woodworker and goes to the military. I mean, I doubt that's the first thing on his mind.
But if you're in
He's
the
like, oh, let me
military-
comb my hair.
But when you're in the military, you have to stay. Hygiene is like it is one of the fundamental things about being in the military. And even in those scenes, the guy is just like a mess, man. And I thought,
I agree with you, but
when
he
you're trying
got
to avoid
drafted. He
bullets
didn't
being-
volunteer.
of all the things, no, he
He
volunteered.
didn't get drafted. They volunteered, dude.
He
If
volunteered.
you see that film, him and his friend, they all went
Maybe I
to
forgot.
the office to go volunteer.
Yeah, I think somebody else
But
saw
anyway.
the clip notes. Somebody else did the clip notes. Hold on, right?
How? I've seen the movie multiple times.
Anyway,
So here's the biggest issue that I have with this movie is that when the male lead is so much better looking than the female lead, I have a problem with that, dude.
What?
They could have when the male lead is so much better looking than the female lead.
You don't
Hold
like
on,
Rachel
hold on.
McAdams?
Hold
No,
on,
hold
hold
on.
on.
Rachel
Do you
McAdams is
realize
pretty.
we just have him on record saying that Ryan Gosling is good looking?
wow.
That's
Better
what I'm
looking
taking
than
out of
Rachel
this.
McAdams is what I'm saying.
Here's the problem, RJ. Is he
If you
can
put
edit
him
that
up
part
against-
out? You and I will never.
Yeah,
You should have
no,
been
no, no.
recording this on the side,
Look,
RJ.
you put him next to
You're right.
Angelina
Hold on.
Jolie.
Can you repeat that?
Oh my god! I think Rachel
But-
McAdams is incredibly beautiful.
I
She
agree.
is.
One of the most beautiful, physically
You put him next
beautiful
to-
ladies out there, actresses out
Put him
there.
next to Salma Hayek. Okay,
Oh,
now
my.
you're talking, dude.
Man,
But come on, Rachel McAdams could be the girl next door. She could be some girl walking in North Park Mall, right? Ryan Gosling just out. I'm sorry, he was just the male lead in this movie.
hey RJ.
and the female lead.
Hmm.
This week I want you to co-edit with Uncle Jay, and I want you to put "Man Crush." Ding ding. ding.
Yeah. Well, I'll come
Man.
over this weekend and
Hey,
we can
Stephanie,
co-edit.
what did I tell you yesterday, Stephanie? What did I tell you yesterday? Just me saying these things. We're going to prompt these guys to say that this was going to be my favorite.
Well, because
movie.
it's such a drastic change. Had you not had the position before that, oh, Ryan Gosling's such a spare and this movie's gonna suck, then we probably wouldn't be giving you any crap. But
Hold on.
you did like a
I didn't
full
say he was-
180.
I didn't say he was a superstar, dude. He's still spare, right? But he's a good.
Oh, but he's
Oh,
he's
but he's a
Adonis.
good-looking
He's
spare.
Adonis. Yeah, he's a good-looking spare.
Anyway, he's not even my favorite actor in the whole movie, man. This movie does have one of my favorite actors of all time, man, Sam Shepard. I love Sam Shepard as an actor, man. He's fantastic in a lot of movies that he does. And I didn't realize he was in it until when she goes to meet his father. When she goes to meet his father, I'm like, hey man, that's Sam Shepard.
Oh yeah.
So
Well, let's go ahead and score this
this
thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Roland, let's do you first, Roll.
Scoring.
Yep.
Mhm.
All right. So for story, I gave it a 3.5. It is a good story. It's a great love story. I do like it, but I do think that there are some flaws in it. I mean, the happenstance that she sees she's actually moved out, right? She's moved out of. I can't remember where she's living when she's engaged to James Marsden character.
New York. They're in New York.
Right. But she just happens to see that small little blurb on his house in the picture and
In North Carolina.
to go back. So that and then the questions I had about the dementia part 2, where I agree, she only had 5 minutes of lucid time that she actually remembered him, but they spent a lifetime together, and so. I know dementia affects the brain in very weird ways, but anyway, just a few plot holes. So 3.5. Star power, I gave it a 4. Obviously, it's got some great names associated with the movie. As far as the quality of acting, I gave it a 3.5. Ryan Gosling may be an Adonis. His acting is it was okay, right? Although I did feel the passion between him and Rachel McAdams. And then I think even James Garner, as great as an actor as he is,
Yeah. I was
I
disappointed.
think some of his scenes were a little flat. So 3.5. Emotion, I gave it a 4. I mean, because it does exude passion. It does exude love. I'm a big sucker, romantic at heart, so I really liked it. Would I watch it again? I gave it a 3.5. definitely would watch it, but it's always going to be in the context of with my wife. I'm not going to watch this movie on my own. So it's always going to be with her, and she's going to kill me for saying this, but the end scene when they're in the hospital bed together and they die together. I said, wow, what a way to go. Is that how you want to go? And she's sitting there wiping all these tears away. Yep.
Dude, you're lucky you didn't get poisoned that night.
Man, I'm telling you. So overall score 18.5.
All right, Miss Stephanie, you're up.
Okay. Well, like I said, on your scale, 22.5 and above is an A. I couldn't give this movie an A. I gave it a high B. My total is 21. Okay. And that is straight fours until watch it again. And like I said, I don't typically watch movies again, but I'll have my children watch them because I give them a film education. Sure. And this is out of 11 Nicholas Sparks adaptations, this is the best of the offerings. Mm-hmm. So I will have her watch this one and eventually my boys too. So, and one thing I noted too, I tend to gravitate towards the IMDb rating. Mm-hmm. And when you compare Spartacus with The Notebook, which IMDb is everyday people watching the film. So that's what I go to. And Spartacus was 7.9 mm-hmm. and this one was 7.8. So really, really, really close for every day, because what you would use this film for, this film is not like inspirational for political reasons or a triumph of the human spirit. It's an everyday love story, a stronger than average everyday love story. If you feel in the love, you want to watch a movie with your spouse, whatever, this is a good one to go and spend the evening. You spend 2 hours and 11 minutes and you're not dissatisfied. You're like, that was a good way to spend a couple of hours. I'm happy. It was a good meal. So again, 21 points. High B.
All right. I'm going to go next. So for the plot, the storyline, I gave it a 3. It was an interesting story. The way that they broke it up between, like Stephanie mentioned, is basically 2 movies in one. That was interesting to me. There were some unbelievable things in there. And one of the things Roland brought up that I was going to bring up was the fact that she saw that article in the newspaper when she had no reason to even be anywhere looking close to that. Unless you're reading an architecture magazine or anything like that, there was no reason for him to write a story on a house in North Carolina in a New York newspaper. And the thing that bothered me about the dementia aspect of it was that, how she would snap out of it and had such clarity so quickly, and it would be there for like 5 minutes and then boom, she was gone, to the point where they have to sedate her and put her down again. So I did have some problems with the story there. So I gave it a 3. Star power, I gave it a 3 as well. When this movie came out, Ryan Gosling was not a superstar. I don't think he's a superstar now. I think he's a spare anyway.
But he was handsome, right? He was amazing.
He was a handsome spare, but he was a spare.
He's borderline gorgeous. He's like the most attractive spare you've ever seen in your life.
This was his first big lead.
Yeah.
He did the United States of Leland, but of course that was a smaller indie film.
Yeah.
But sorry to interrupt, but when he was acting, this is why I didn't give high scores for acting. You could see what he was thinking. I'm going to be big after this film.
Of course, Rachel McAdams has been in a lot of movies, but she's not, she hasn't attained that superstar status. She's probably a B+ lister. She's not an A lister. I wouldn't put her on that category.
Wow.
James Garner, James Garner was big in the TV genre, not the biggest superstar in the movie genre. And Sam Shepard's one of my favorite actors. So I gave the star power a 3. The quality of the acting, I gave that a 4. I mean, there were a lot of strong performances. I think, you could definitely feel I think I agree more with Stephanie than I do with Roland, that you could feel that that sexual tension and that love between Rachel McAdams' character and Ryan Gosling's character, just because of I think they were feeling those things in real life, and when you're feeling those things in real life, it's easily translated on film. The quality of the acting there at that point, I think, was really strong. The emotional buy-in, you could definitely feel the emotion from everybody. I think one of the more heartbreaking scenes, even though the acting wasn't that great, but that one scene where they do have to sedate her when she loses it again, and James Garner's having to watch them take his wife down and sedate her, and she doesn't recognize her, and you could just kind of at that point you could see the heartbreak in his eyes. Right. That was a really, really strong scene for me. That was a good emotional buy-in for me. Would I watch it again? I gave that a 3 just because, I'm kind of like Roland. I think the only time I would ever watch this movie again is if my wife kind of wanted to watch it again. And I don't think this is one of her favorite romantic movies, so I don't think she would ever want to watch it again either. She probably thought it was more sappy than it needed to be. So I gave it a total of 17. All right, RJ, you're up.
All right, Majestic Mexican, you're up.
Plot, I gave it a 3.5. I think we've all, even when you asked me to start, I pointed out some things that I found hard to believe. I think we've all kind of poked holes in the plot. But overall, still a very good plot, very, kind of touching. Star power, I gave it a 4. Obviously, Ryan Gosling, Rachel McAdams, who I can't believe, you have to, you feel the need that you need. Yeah. Wow. But not even, and then just to get into some more, obviously, you mentioned James Garner, Sam Shepard, but also James Martin has he's been in some pretty good movies. I know Joan Allen, who played the mom. I've seen her in other works.
Yes,
and also the great Kevin Connolly from Entourage. That's probably a little bit of bro culture coming out there, but yeah, I love Kevin Connolly and Entourage. Quality of acting 3.5. There were down moments, and obviously kind of adjusted my score a little bit mid episode after hearing you guys talk. I can kind of see James Garner doesn't really fit an old Ryan Gosling, so I took that into account. Emotional buy-in 4. I just love the story, and I'll go ahead and give Watch Against 4 as well, just because I want to tie them in together. I've seen this movie, like I said, probably at least 4 or 5 times. I really enjoy this movie, and maybe that's just because I love the kind of hopeless romanticism of the movie and the unreality of it. But and even tying in what you were saying, the memes that you see of Ryan Gosling and her, in the rain. As much as you probably thought that was funny, Uncle JD, that I kind of love that scene. So total score of 19 for me.
19. All right. Well, that gives our overall scores for Spartacus at 79.5, and our overall score for the Notebook 75.5. So very, very close.
Pretty close.
This is going to come down to the polling from the listeners and our followers. But yeah,
Spartacus.
I think it was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. I think going into this when we first just looked at the names of the movies, but yeah, I think we did get some strong performances on both ends. But Ms. Stephanie, I want to thank you for joining us again tonight.
Yes, thank you.
We really enjoyed having you.
Thank you.
Hold on, I'm sorry.
Well, you can't multitask.
No, I had to talk and type at the same time. But yeah, Ms. Stephanie, we really enjoyed having you on. And for future episodes, I know you're a big movie buff. We definitely would like to have you on again as we progress through the tournament. We definitely maybe even bring you in on some more male-oriented movies to get that female perspective on them. But yeah, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, real quick note. I really did appreciate her commentary on the Gina Rowland's character, the whole hair, and I never would have thought about that. So I definitely appreciated that perspective, Stephanie.
Yeah,
it was great, fantastic.
I'll talk movies any day.
All right, Miss Stephanie. Well, thank you for joining us, and we'll talk to you later. Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye, Stephanie. Thanks.
Bye.
Well, guys,
All right.
that was fun. Obviously, Stephanie brought a fresh perspective, and
Dude, what's with the hat?
it's interesting to see how she was a lot more prepared on a few things. Obviously, a film buff, I think, really takes watching and rating films very seriously. I think we do it a little bit more as for fun. But no, I think this was a great episode. Be fun to have her back on at some point as we go further into the tournament. But guys, we're running on that. I mean, this is one of our longer episodes. We're coming up on an hour and 25. So,
well, when I edit out all my Ryan Gosling content, it won't be that long.
No. I'll be over on Friday to make sure that doesn't happen, man.
So, with that said, folks, thank you again for giving us your time. We truly appreciate it. We know we had fun. We did a lot of talking. 2 great films, obviously very close in score. We want you guys to voice your opinion. Please go and vote. Whether you do it on our Facebook page, whether you do it even in the comments here on YouTube. Plus whatever other forums that RJ and my bro, because I'm just the face. These guys are the brains, right? That said, though, thank you for tonight. This was fun. Please stay tuned in with us. Thank you for watching. Maybe remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons and ding the notification bell so that you are notified when we drop another episode. Check us out on Podbean, singular, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and iHeartRadio. Check us out in audio format if you get tired of looking at our ugly mugs. And guys, again, this is really fun for us, so we truly appreciate having you guys visit us. Don't forget to visit our Facebook page. Guys, am I leaving anything out before we wrap it up?
Instagram and Reddit.
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, and Reddit, and then take it from there.
All right, guys. So have a good night, and thanks to Jesse P, because we couldn't do this without you.
That's right.
See ya.
Good night, boys.
You guys later. Take it easy.